This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, Coffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have Danielle, who is the Director of Marketing and Client Success at Atelier Commerce with us. Hey, Danielle, how's it going?
Hey, Ranmay, how's it going? It's good. Thank you for this invitation. I'm really excited to be on your podcast.
Lovely. Danielle, before we move any forward, why don't you talk us through your journey a bit, how it all started, how you landed up in the digital marketing space, and also a bit about Atelier Commerce. I mean, your agency, what do you guys do? What are your core offerings? And we'll take it off from there.
Okay, awesome. So I like to say I didn't find marketing, marketing found me. I started my journey. I just knew I wanted to be in business as a young child. I would look at businesses. I'm like, man, they should just get a new sign and I think they could make more money. And I wanted to, sell things. And so anyway, I just like, what is this career? And didn't really know what that was, but ended up my husband, now husband, we were dating at the time, and he was like, I really think you need to go into entrepreneurship. And I had no idea what that meant and didn't memorize how to spell it because I was like, what is this word? What does this mean? So I went to college for entrepreneurship, and there I got acquainted with every single aspect of business, which I really appreciated. And actually, in my marketing classes, I was like, I don't like this. I don't think I will ever go into marketing. And what I've learned in my life is whatever I say I will never, I end up usually doing. So when I graduated, I had this looming student loan debt. It was a great recession. I was having a hard time even landing an interview. Now everybody also was in person for work, and my husband's job moved us to some really remote areas where there wasn't a whole lot of work regardless. So I was like, what am I going to do? And somebody reached out to me and said, hey, would you be interested in being my virtual assistant? And again, didn't really know what that meant, but I was like, sure. So anyway, that's how I started my business and ended up then learning how to build websites. And then I convinced him like, hey, can I build you a new website? And he said yes, thankfully. And then he ended up referring me to pretty much every single person that he interacted with. And that's how my business grew. And so I self-taught myself how to build websites, learned CSS and HTML, and then everything that came with marketing. And what I ended up finding was I really became like that business consultant that I always wanted to be through marketing. It was a fun thing. And then I've transitioned into different roles since then. I sold my business, then worked brand side, and now I'm back in e-commerce, agency side with Atelier Commerce. I've been here for about a year. And what we specialize in is marketing. We're a boutique marketing agency for primarily luxury brands. And so we're building Shopify. We also work with BigCommerce and shopware websites. And then we do the full suite marketing. So from affiliate to Meta ads, Google ads, and email campaigns. And I oversee all of the digital marketing side.
Oh, very nice. You must have done one good job of the first website that you built.
I think I probably spent 100 hours on it. So I think it wasn't so bad because I had no idea what I was doing. And I was really passionate about, if I didn't know what I was doing, this is some advice that I'm just going to throw out because I see this happen a lot when I'm hiring contractors. If you don't know what you're doing, stop the clock, stop charging somebody and take it as a learning opportunity and go dive in and take the pressure off and go learn what it is you need to learn, because you're going to end up making so much more money once you understand that tool, and you shouldn't penalize your customer for it. And that was something that I took to heart, and I ended up learning a lot through that process. I'm really grateful for.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you for that piece of advice. And Daniel, you oversee both marketing and client success, right? So that's, quite a thing in terms of, getting in new clients or trying to attract new clients and then looking at the retention part of it, right? So how do you align those two functions so that growth isn't just about acquisition, but long-term retention at the same time?
Right. I think there's always these battling forces between acquisition and retention. And how I like to look at it is that the
Yeah.
strongest form of growth is actually retention should be your primary driver because you can always acquire through retention. So when I built my agency, as I said, somebody really by the grace of God reached out to me asking me for my help. But then he referred me to every single person he knew. I ended up
Mhm.
not spending a single penny on advertising. As a marketer, I didn't do any marketing for myself. And that's something that I feel like is should be your primary driver in business and from an agency perspective is focusing on retaining your current clients. You're not going to keep everybody and there's always going to be some churn, but if you're focused on a long-term strategy and a long-term relationship, when they're happy, you're going to acquire new customers through those because they're going to refer, they're going to share that information. And also now you have some sort of a better story to tell about how you partnered with that client and how you were able to grow their business where like only better things are going to come from that. And I see a lot of agencies so focused on the pipeline and they're just like churning and burning. And I don't understand. I don't work that way. So that's how I look at it. It's like for long-term retention should be your primary focus for acquisition.
Absolutely. And the way I look at it is from a sales standpoint, right? So, I mean, your retention starts with what you've sold and whom you have sold. If there is a right need for what your services offer,
Mhm.
then the chances, and you're doing the right thing the right way in terms of deliverables, then retention is an automatic thing or is an autopilot, right? Until and unless you really mess it up. Yeah. But if you haven't really understood what your target audience or your clients need, right, and you have
Mhm.
not really understood the need and sold something which they might not exactly require, right? Then it is more like a leaking bucket. You keep on
Yeah.
acquiring and you keep losing clients, right?
Right.
And so that is I'm completely in alignment when you said retention is one of the strongest foot in terms of when it comes to your growth, right? It's kind of forms the base of your growth because you can always acquire, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. If you just focus on acquisition, you
Mhm.
can do that. But
Yeah.
you might be building a bad reputation in the meantime, because if you're not good
Mhm.
at what you're offering, yeah. But that exists, right? There are a lot of businesses that are
Yeah.
and products, where it's just like, "Hey, we just need you to buy once," and
Yeah,
not
a
really
lot
care
of,
what happens
especially with the startup ecosystem, a lot of, burn and churn is the name of the game. So yeah. But yeah, I've been talking about your journey, and which has been quite phenomenal to how it started and how it is going right now. So, what leadership strategies, Daniel, have worked best for you, for scaling the business? And right now, like you said, you have teams, not only in the US, but remote teams as well, to kind of handling all of it and then ensuring constant growth.
Right. I think that's such a great question. Thank you for asking that because this is something I'm really passionate about. And I think something that I love to do is mentor and lead teams. And I've been fortunate to have majority of my career be online based and remote. So I get that question a lot of just like, how can you work remotely? How do you manage a team? And I'm like, I think it's easy. But the biggest thing actually, like if you're managing a team remotely, first of all, I had a job where I had a team in person and I had two remote teams. They were remote in different areas, but they were in an office together, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
so I had to make sure that there wasn't anybody who was in the remote teams who was jealous of the in-person interactions that would, that in-person team. And that taught me a lot about how to manage people in different areas and like purely remote teams or purely in-person teams. I think number one, you have to replicate some of that in person. Like you have to make time for giving people an opportunity to talk about their personal life and their day and be actually genuinely interested in that. And the second thing is you really have to give people autonomy on how it is they work best, especially with like people. I actually think this is probably true how people are working in any capacity. So how I first like to lead is I basically give people, if you're onboarding, I'm going to give you the lay of the land. This is your job. This is the tools that we use. These are the expectations, and check in them with them, on a consistent basis, but then give them like full range of like, you figure it out. You tell me this is what the problem I have is, and you go solve it.
Hmm.
Then I listen and they come back and it's like, okay, well, you didn't really get this part right. Why is that? Did I not communicate that clearly? Or is it that this is just an area that maybe you don't have enough information on how to use the tool or something like that? And then I build a system around the deficiencies and the gaps instead of coming at them with like micromanaging or this is how you have to do it. And so I guess maybe in a way I treat everybody like a contractor, even if they're, a full-time employee, and assume the best and then build systems when when it's clear of what they need.
And you mentioned about the process about how to build the team, right? Talk us through the culture part of it. How do you
Yeah.
ensure that the culture is in place? Any must-haves that you have as an agency or as a company, you know,
Yeah.
across the functions or departments as a culture that you want to be associated with.
Yeah, it's such a great question. And it's hard to, I think this is the thing that people are so frustrated about with remote is like,
Right.
how do we replicate the culture? And again, I think you have to remember like, what would we do in person that we're not doing remotely? So, I love overusing GIFs on Slack or Teams or whatever tool you're using, and just like sending messages throughout the day of like letting people know like, hey, I'm gonna head out of the office quick, I got a quick errand to run. Like that constant communication is that's what you would do if you were in the office. You would, hey Ranmay, I gotta go run quick, my kid's got a thing, so I'll be back in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And we'd have that conversation, and I think so many people are just like, oh, well, nobody cares. I'm just going to, like, I don't need to replicate that. I think you do. And that's what I think builds a culture, because people now are getting to know each other more personally. It's not like, why do we have pizza parties when we're at the office? It's so people build relationships. So you
Yeah.
have to build the relationships. And I think that's what forms a culture. And if somebody's just not like digging that style, or they're not aligned with the relationship building, then maybe they're not a great fit for that culture. And that's not a bad thing. Everybody has a place that maybe suits them. We're not all designed to like get along. It's just like, but if everybody's together and we're all enjoying ourselves and we enjoy being with each other for 8 hours a day, even when we're sending just Slack messages and funny gifts and communicating what's happening in our day, I think that's the best way to form that culture.
Lovely, lovely. Good pointers there. Now, moving on, the SERPs are rewriting themselves,
Mhm.
2025, right? So, with all the AI and all the
Yeah.
technology kicking in, so what is your tactical process to ensure, your client visibility when the rankings have become so volatile, right?
Right. Yeah, this is something where at Atelier, I'm not the lead of SEO. So we have somebody who's like super smart at it. And the big thing, though, that I know we're focusing on is the best practices. And so the white hat SEO is what we're big fans of. And all of our tactics really fall under that practice. So we are really focused on what's been the things that have always worked and continuing to do those things. We have no client who has lost major on any SEO rankings. So
Yeah.
we've done website builds. I mean, I've had websites before and worked brand side, and you get a new website and just everything tanks, right? And we've never had that happen with a single client. And so if there's a little dip, there's always that little dip right away, right? You've seen
Yeah.
that little dip, but it's always then come back even stronger. Anyway, I think it's those tried and true practices really help. And then what we're also doing is focus on that AI discovery. Everything that we do, especially in e-commerce, there's all of these data points. I think people have to think about each product is essentially like a entire website. It could be, like think about it more like that than just like, oh, it's a product. It's like, how do you optimize this entire product? Because that product should be able to stand on its own legs in any search engine. So you have to give it all these data points. And that's how we are focusing on that, transitioning out of for the future where maybe search engine rankings aren't going to be as important as how you are ranking in an LLM.
And talking about LLMs or AI for say, any favorite tool that you're using, like, that like a go-to thing these days?
A favorite tool like for to teach the AI or just like a favorite AI tool?
Favorite AI tool?
Mm. I mean, like I'm really boring probably because but I feel like I'm using ChatGPT way too much.
We all
But
do. Don't worry.
I
Don't
mean,
be unpacked guilt. We all
primarily
do.
yeah, what we all do, right? Just started playing with Nano Banana, and we're having a lot of fun with that. And as far as the visual side is concerned, pretty amazing how that technology is like exponentially improving. But then it seems to have some bad days or bad weeks, and you're just like, no, you got that all wrong. And then you then you have to open up Photoshop and start over. But as far as like for clients, we've trained ChatGPT, for each client. I think everybody's done that. It's nothing
Yeah.
really like exciting. But I think a big thing that we're doing that's different is we're actually talking to ChatGPT on, hey, please tell us what you know about this client
Yeah.
and then filling in those gaps for them
Mhm.
on their site. And so that making sure that the information that how it's reading their information is correct. So it's like if there's anything that's amiss, we need to make sure that that's fixed. And is that on site? Is that in social media? Where are the things that need it? So anyway, we have clients though who are getting quite a few sales now from ChatGPT, which is really exciting.
Lovely, lovely. Moving on to the e-commerce space, Daniel, when you think about, where are we headed with the e-commerce space, with so much happening in our, let's say, digital marketing,
Yeah.
space. And now we're ending 2025. What are your bets for 2026?
I don't think we're going to see a lot of changes in 2026. I think we're 2030s are going to probably experience the most changes. I mean, ChatGPT announced that Shopify and ChatGPT's partnership, and so soon, it's in beta right now, right? Of being able to directly shop for a product in ChatGPT with Shopify websites. That's huge because now I think that's scary to BigCommerce, Shopware, any of the competitors, Magento, any of the e-commerce platforms who didn't get into that conversation. They were not invited into the boardroom. So I think we may potentially see some other AI models who are competing with that or some lawsuits. We'll see how that all shakes out. I'm not sure. But then as a consumer, now, if you're feeling like all of these things are personalized and I can just directly go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm looking for this really meaningful gift for my partner and I am thinking something like this. I mean, I've done those things like, hey, I don't know what to get this person for this occasion. What do you recommend? And then it pulls up these recommendations along with the product and you can buy it right there. Well, that's now scary because it's not scary. It's just changing how we're going to shop because now if you don't have a reason to go to the website, now you might not become a loyalty and rewards member. Now you might not be signing up for the email. Now you might not be you're going to miss all these other experiences. So I think
Right.
it's going to really affect how brands are communicating and there's just going to be this period where we're like I figuring out now what? How do we get back to or how do we like focus on that retention piece if we don't
Yeah.
get the information from the customer. We'll see what happens. I'm not really sure. And also then just like the privacy concerns too, if ChatGPT really knows everything you're purchasing. I don't know. Like is that I don't know how that's going to change things, but I think in 2030s we'll see maybe the entire idea of an e-commerce website changes.
Lovely, lovely, Daniel. Finally, you are the director of client success. So, I would love to ask this question to you. Your favorite client stories so far?
Yeah, I have a great one actually. So we just came off of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and we had a client who was up 90% year over year for the month of November to like through Cyber Monday, and had their biggest month ever, actually. And October, though, was like a little slower, but we were very intentional in October. And what we were doing was focusing on the brand messaging and the value proposition. And so we sent out fewer like sales oriented campaigns, excuse me,
Yeah.
and focus more on why this product was superior to competition and why the brand mattered, their ethos, and all of that. And it was like, sent out a lot of emails and, no sales, no sales, but we knew what we were doing. And as soon as we put those products on sale, it was like, bam, it resonated with people and they had a lot more emotional tie to the brand and were excited and honored to purchase something at a discount. It was really exciting to see that much growth. And now we're going to do it again.
Lovely. Lovely, Daniel. Thank you so much for your time to do this with us. And this has been a fantastic conversation. For our audiences, if they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You can follow Atelier Commerce. There's a lot of different Atelier websites. So ateliercommerce.com. Find us on LinkedIn. And then, Danielle Schermerhorn for me. And also we have a podcast. I have a podcast too, Lift Kit Marketing Podcast. And you can follow us there.
All right. Lovely. This was a great one. Cheers.
Thank you so much.